Hello there, this is Elagatua, and today we are going to be going through the third round of the Smacky Cup 3. This will be myself against Miraculous XP, and it's an Olaf mirror on the wonderful Frostleaf. If you have not had a chance to look at the Frostleaf map review, I said a lot of mean things about this map, and how much it's a mess, and if you want to know the exact reasons why, I lay it out all in grotesque detail in that other video. But if you're here, you are going to be treated to a game of Advance Wars on this map. So, without further ado, let's just go right into the game. We don't need to cover the map or anything else. Let's just see what happened in this catastrophe. So I am player 1 in the bottom left, and Miraculous XP is the top right. You can kind of skip through the first few days a little bit. This is all very standard openings, at least on my side. I don't know what Miraculous XP is doing. And we're going to go with the day 3 recon here. The day 3 recon is pretty much something you do every single game on this map, because getting the day 3 recon allows you to dramatically slow down your opponent's captures in this area. Additionally, it's better for player 1 than it is for player 2. So player 1 should probably always get a day 3 recon unless you're trying something very specific. Just because it is very difficult to counter. You can't really get a tank down in that area to counter very easily, and it can run away easily from mechs. So it's unlikely to get picked off. So that's what we're doing there. And then going to be shuttling as many infantry units up to the top right as possible. As player 1, I can get 2 of these cities done before a day 3 recon will arrive. So I want to make sure to take advantage of that, because if I get, basically, if I get all 3 of these cities capped, I've essentially secured myself half map, which is a good place to be in a tournament game, just in case the game stalls out and goes to day limit, something like that. But we're going to get 2 of these unless, well, I don't think anything can possibly stop it. So we're going to get just 2 of those cities for free. And I'm going to get an early airport. And the idea here is I want to get a early T-copter behind my recon harass. So sometimes you can do a day 3, day 4 recon on this map. As you can see, I've got enough, or I had enough money for it last turn. But I'm going for a more economic opener, which is just my style. I often don't go super early aggro, unless the map indicates that it's a good play. So here, I could have moved this recon 1 square more forward, but oftentimes player 2 will actually go for this city first. And so there's no reason to reveal that I day 3 reconned a day early by putting it in range of a potential infantry on that city. And I can still see all 3 cities from this position. So it's, in my opinion, it's just as good to be 1 square back. But actually we see that none of these 3 cities are being capped. And so what this indicates to me is maybe there was an early infantry capturing this port instead of ferrying it down here early on, because the normal cap route would have an infantry here finishing a cap, I think, on one of those cities. But anyway, just continuing with cap stuff, and we're going to get the T-copter now. And so again, if you want to go T-copter on this map, it's better to do it soon. I guess that's kind of a thing on any map, really, because the earlier you have your transport unit out, the more turns you're going to have to benefit from it. Additionally, you tend to end up infantry starved on this side because your factories are really far back that are going this way. And so getting, if infantry walk all the way here, it's going to take forever. And oftentimes you want to be sending the infantry from this base into the black boat to be transferred up here. So you're going to end up with like a lot of infantry here and generally less here. But getting the T-copter early helps me get to some of these caps here that are slowed down by the rivers. And additionally, the longer the game goes, the more value it's going to get. And hopefully it will give me enough infantry on this side that I can maybe attack into these cities to gain a lead at some point. So we finished those 2 caps that we're going to get for essentially free. And we're just moving infantry forward. Again, this is a big map, so things kind of develop slowly. And I'm moving that infantry over here so that I can get to here faster. And I had this all worked out exactly how I was going to do it. So I'm not going to cover the cap chains in details. Just take my word for it that I tried to optimize it as best I can. And I'm going to open with an artillery on this side. I don't really plan on being aggro in this game. And actually, my plan is to get a lander very early to play defensively over here. And if you're going to get an early lander, it kind of limits your offensive options to contest these cities. So that's fine. So my goal is just to try and get this artillery, get it over like in this tile here to make sure I lock down my comm tower, and then I'm just going to play defense on this side. There's not much risk of anything happening if I play defense because this comm tower is so far back that it's very, very difficult for a push from this side to actually contest it, given that this side tends to be starved of vehicles for player 2. And these dynamics, I covered all these in detail in the map review, so if you've watched that, this should all sound very familiar. And then I'm just going to put this recon on the city to see what is going on, because I haven't seen anything, and I'm kind of surprised by that. So looks like the infantry just finished this cap, which means that it's going to be heading towards one of these cities, and I'm just going to put the recon in the way for a while and just block. I don't really care about killing the infantry. I'm just here to slow things down because I have nothing following this up. So we'll see what we see, and we see the day 3 recon from Miraculous XP. So again, this is pretty standard. Gets a free pot shot on the infantry, which is fine. I don't mind that because I've already finished the cap, and I know that, well, I can't go for this city for a little bit, but I kind of already set things up for this infantry to come down to this city. So it's okay. We'll leave one city untouched for a while until we can get some more support on that weak side. And we're just going to keep capping. So the infantry moves over here. So this is a situation where I can't really stop the infantry from doing too much because the infantry can either go here or he can go here, and I can't block both very easily. If I had a day 4 recon, I could, but I can't. So I'm kind of inclined to just sit on this city. This city is in range of the mountains, and it's really likely that there's going to be an infantry on this mountain at some point to actually see this recon. So blocking this, there's no way that like the infantry is going to bonk into the recon, basically, is what I'm saying. So I might as well just kind of leave him here. It's a further square out. On like if you look at the diagonal, like this is a little bit closer to player 2's factories. But and this stuff doesn't really matter too much. Again, I'm just trying to stall the caps on the weak side of my opponent. So again, cap phase, doing some infantry boosts with the T-copter. I'm opting not to go early mech because I'm getting a mech now, but oftentimes you will even have a mech in this first unload here, because this is a way to try and push away a day 3 recon, especially if it turns into like a day 3, day 4 recon. You can kind of put the mech here, and then the mech can go here, and the recons can't really push into that, because you could theoretically be mech chaining behind it. But I'm not doing that. I'm saving the mech for a little bit later, and I want to get a recon up here to kind of see what's going on. And we're setting up for the lander purchase. I think the lander purchase is next turn. So we're going really early lander to try and get some vehicles up here really quickly. And we see everything that's going on. So again, this is why the day 3 recon is pretty strong, and also why it's not very risky. Wow, there's a mech here. I guess if I had gone and attacked the infantry, it would have worked out really bad for me, but now I see the mech. I won't stay on this city. There's no reason to stay on this city. I could attack into the mech, I guess, but it's not really the point. You just kind of leave the mech alone. The recon has value, just blocking properties. And this mech can't capture anything, right? Because it's on this tile, so it can't get to here. So I've kind of blocked this city already, which is great. And this infantry, I think he might have bunked into the recon, actually. Let me see. Did he bunk into me? Yeah, he did. So I did successfully, block him. So I think that's kind of a mistake, actually. This infantry probably should have gone down here with vision on the mountain. Otherwise, you just you're missing out on a turn of caps for free, and yeah, so that's a little bit of a mistake. Not super significant because the mech's covering it, so I can't just like pot shot the infantry from the city. And let's see, anything else interesting about this turn? I'm trying to think. No, I don't think so. So I just can't stay here. There's no reason to let my recon get hit by the mech, and there's no reason to attack the mech, so this is going to be a theme of this game, and that theme is I have no reason to attack. This won't be the last time you hear that. We're going to start slowly pushing out, seeing if we can put some pressure on this city. I'm assuming that the recon is just sitting on that city. That's what I would do if I were my opponent. And this is the lander turn. So again, we've reached day 9. We have no tank on the map. We built a T-copter and a lander and some mechs and an artillery. So this is a super passive opener, but at the same time, now that this lander is on the board, I can reinforce vehicles to the weak side very, very quickly. And actually, my vehicle reinforced to the weak side is faster than my vehicle reinforced to the strong side, which is very, very silly, and is kind of a weird quirk of this map. But I discussed the lander in detail in my other video, but the one-sentence summary of that video is landers are really, really good, and you probably should be getting one. So this is a really good position for the recon to be in. So I see the copter, and now it's like, oh no, my recon's going to get hit by the copter. But that's actually not the end of the world. It's quite nice to know that this copter exists, because you can do some calculations on kind of like what units can be out on the map, and it basically confirms that there's only one recon over here. I don't really think there can be anything else that was made, and this copter can't kill the recon alone. And if we look at our reinforces, like if there's a tank coming, then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So even if there was a tank coming along with this copter, it ought to be 1 square short of being able to hit this recon. So it's going to be kind of annoying. And if the recon takes a hit from a copter, it's really not the end of the world. This recon's done its job just by blocking the infantry for one turn and seeing the mech, seeing the copter. Like, great, you did awesome. You can run away now. Like, we did our job. We bought time for the lander, right? Like, we were never going to attack on this side, so whatever we got done with our delaying is more than good enough. And we see that tank come in. So now, like, we see everything, right? Like, we know exactly what our opponent did. Our opponent, day 3 recon into early copter, early tank, and all the vehicles are here, which means that there's probably not a whole lot of pressure over here beyond the day 3 recon. So I'm thinking, like, maybe I can push this back, even kind of bluffing that, hey, like, you should run away because I've got stuff over here. After all, my opponent has seen nothing, right? So my opponent has no idea what I could have. I could have anything, right? Like, I could have a tank over here or, an early copter pushing up. So my opponent has to respect that. The reality is that I actually have nothing. But if you don't give vision of anything away, then your opponent has to wonder and consider all the possibilities of what you have. So my recon gets popped, but I actually get counterattack damage on the copter. It's a little bit of a nice roll, and basically means like the net worth damage is more or less equal between both of us. I think it's like, four damage on a recon's like 1,600, and 1 damage on a copter is like 900, right? So it's like, it's pretty negligible difference there. So even though my recon got popped, I'm not brokenhearted about it, and it's not there to kill anything. It's just there to see stuff. So we got that recon up on our weak side now. It can be kind of difficult to get recons over on this side just because the normal pathing is really slow for them. And also, even with the lander, you have to go through like a substantial amount of grass. So I just want to get the recon up to see, like, okay, if all the units are here, maybe there could be a chance for me to harass the comm tower because there's likely nothing backing that up. Don't know if that's going to be possible or not, but the sooner I get the recon up, the sooner I can see whether I've got an opportunity to attack or not. And we kind of YOLO the infantry in on the city, even though the day 3 recon could be there, because we're pretending like we have something to cover that infantry. And we don't, but our opponent can't know that. And so now we're going to finally get some vehicles out on this side to match what our opponent has done. So early anti-air, early tank. And again, our opponent could potentially try to harass our capture of this comm tower, but our opponent has no vision of what we built. And just like we can have, a tank over here covering this, even though we don't, we could easily have an anti-air over here covering this. So any harass is potentially quite perilous just to blindly go in there with a copter. And the copter retreats. So that's good. So we can kind of see where this game is going. At this turn, I've basically locked up, or I've got captures started on all of the properties that belong to me. And again, the map divides like this. So this is, assuming I don't get harassed this turn, this is half map for me. And we're going to settle into basically the only thing that can possibly happen on this map, if you have 2 players that understand how to play it, it's going to be a stall. So I'm positioning some infantry to potentially harass this comm tower if it has not been captured. I'm not going to be able to get vision on it until next turn. And I'm not super interested in committing a lot to it, but if the opportunity is there, I can kind of suicide infantry for a while to delay that, and it could give me an opportunity to eventually either push here or get an artillery over there to try and lock it, or give me a combat advantage on this side. We'll see. It's just creating a potential opportunity, but not creating the obligation to actually have to go through with it if I don't want to. And with this lander and with the black boat, I can basically alternate deploys to each side of the map. So this turn, I'm setting up and probably sending these guys into the lander to go over here. And then the following turn, while the lander is away, I can build units from these two factories and send them over here. So we're just going to kind of split our forces across the map because it is a big map. There are two major fronts, and we want to get some recons out to see if we're potentially going to get attacked. But other than that, we're just going to create a stable foundation where if our opponent tries to poke in, we can punish them. And getting the artillery early is pretty good for that because we can cover the comm tower cap, but we don't see anything. We don't have a lot of vision. So now we get finally this recon into this line here, and we see that the comm tower has been capped already, so there's no opportunity to do anything. We definitely do not want to try and attack in. I know it's tempting. Maybe you can send this infantry and this infantry to go in here and then try to fight this, but you're likely not going to get the roll. I think it's 33% chance of infantry killing something on a base with only one comm tower, so not really the trade we're looking to go for, even though trading infantry is generally good for me on this side. If there's any vehicles, it's probably going to end in me just losing 2 infantry for nothing. So we will not be attacking because it is not good to attack. I know this is the first time I've mentioned it, but if there's not an opportunity to attack, you should just not attack. All right, and we got the other recon here is almost done repairing, and we're just kind of seeing what's going on. We want to get a little closer to this, just kind of see what's going on this line. But if we're going to attack into these cities, we're going to need a lot more than we have there currently. So we're just kind of posturing. It's doing some boosties. Again, with that T-copter, just trying to get as much value as we can with that. We got another recon coming. Again, this is a big map, so you want to have a couple of recons just to be able to spot stuff. You'll get some interesting sight lines here. So one thing that's actually a little bit worth pointing out. So having a recon in this forest lets you see this tile. And so this is kind of an important tile for front shifting, because if my opponent sends a lot of vehicles and wants to shift them to the weak side, they're going to have to go through this tile unless they want to go through this slow forest here, which oftentimes they won't. So having vision here, I might be able to see a bunch of units and get some free intelligence just by having this recon in this very safe position. And we start to get some copters. And so, yeah, so this recon's doing great for us. So we see recon come in, we see a tank, and we're pretty sure we got this recon in before our opponent actually got this recon there. So my opponent probably shouldn't know that I have a recon in this forest. This vision doesn't tell me a ton. Also, that's a little bit sloppy. My opponent moved through my vision here when they could have moved without it. But sure, it's not very important intelligence. It's just like an infantry move into the center of the map. And again, there's not really much I can do to attack. So I get the recon on the comm tower, and I see nothing here. So this is pretty surprising because this is a really good defensive line. And we know that my opponent committed a lot of vehicles and an early copter to this side. So it seems to me like my opponent is playing farther back than they need to. And I might want to try and exploit this and see, like, okay, can I try to maybe pressure a little bit? I don't want to just YOLO in, because there's very likely a line of a substantial amount of infantry back here. And so if I just, make a run for the cities, all that's going to happen is my capturing infantry are just going to get killed, and I'm going to lose the infantry fight for nothing. So we don't want to just yeet ourselves in, but we do want to set up some positioning, and we want to maybe bully our opponent back, because our opponent isn't going to really want to bring infantry in range of our infantry, because that would let me kind of get a first strike with the whole infantry line. So if I take a more aggressive position, then my opponent might be forced to play back a little bit. And if I can win a positioning war, then maybe I can create some opportunities for myself down the line. Thrilling stuff, really. So again, we're just edging forward. But there's not really any opportunities to attack too much. But again, so we're set up to maybe make an excursion onto this tile if the opportunity is still there next turn. And we're getting a medium tank for this side. And we're taking advantage of the lander. Medium tanks are great in combination with the lander. You can get 5 movement units up to this side really, really fast, when normally they would be really, really slow. I do like medium tanks on this map a little bit more than neo tanks, because especially on this side, it is very, very easy for your opponent just to build a bomber from the airport in response to a neo tank. And so if you build a bomber and then you basically kill a neo tank in one hit, and then the bomber dies to anti-air, it's pretty much an even trade, and it doesn't matter that much. But if you send a bomber into a medium tank and then the bomber dies to an anti-air, it's actually not a good trade. So you can kind of get a similar value with the medium tanks than as with the neo tanks. Obviously, your movement is not as high, but we're kind of mitigating that with the lander. So I do like that. And with the cost, you get another artillery for free as well. So artillery are great. But again, so you see this line here. So basically, we've set up for a counterattack, right? So if my opponent decides to attack into this front line with everything, the best they can do is they can hit 2 infantry on cities and then a recon on a woods, and then whatever comes in to attack the infantry is going to get counterattacked by this line of infantry in return. So attacking is not really ever going to be efficient for my opponent. And that's just how this map works, because attacking is just never really going to be efficient, because it's this map. So, more staring. We see the tank move presumably down here. And again, that's the value of having this tile, right? Like, it's kind of good information to know that there was a tank here and now it's like going to this side. So that's worth keeping in mind. So we see kind of everything shifting down. And we see that, again, so nothing can come this way without us seeing this tile. So this position is really critical. Not that the information does us any good, right? But it's nice to know. And more recons and another tank. So infantry moving over this way. So it kind of seems like maybe my opponent is kind of shifting down this way in preparation for an attack over here, which makes me want to attack even less. And now we got a second recon, so we got some more intel here. So we see a bunch of infantry, but everything's pretty far back. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe these woods are empty. So I want to check. Just going to sneak that infantry in. And we're going to see if maybe we can pressure this city. This city is the farthest away from vehicle reinforcements on this side, unless they have a lander, which they should. But if they don't, then to kind of fight for that corner city, you got to go here and then like all the way, back down here. So it's really kind of a long reinforce. So potentially there could be an opportunity, but obviously they have the lander, then they can reinforce to this city much faster than I can attack it. But we're just going to pressure and kind of see what happens to us. And claiming position on the map with infantry is quite good, because if my opponent wants to contest, then they have to potentially move infantry in range and maybe give me a first attack kind of on the line of infantry, which can be sometimes very important. So I've shifted this recon over to here. It was good to have this intel, but I want to see if this infantry is kind of getting a little bit too greedy, and I also want it to be a little bit unpleasant for a big attack. I really want to hold on to this recon, and I don't really know how much stuff is here. I feel like having this corner is a little bit more useful, although we saw like a bunch of infantry over here, so I don't really want to take a fight, especially if there's just like a lot of stuff built up like over here for a big fight here. This defensive position is a little bit safer, because I only have that one recon on that side, so if that recon dies, then I'm going to be totally blind. So I definitely want to keep it alive. And we see a recon coming to scout me on the strong side. So, and then we see infantry, a little weird infantry movement, honestly. So it seems like he's retreating. So he's kind of respecting the attack over here. But unfortunately, like he's set up to basically counterattack this city. So I still feel like going into this city is basically just going to be me suiciding infantry for no reason. And I know nothing about what my opponent has built over here. Like, it's been 14 turns, and my opponent could have any number of tech units, could have a lander, could not have a lander. And if they have a lander, then again, there's not really an opportunity to attack any of these cities, which is the theme of the map. There's not an opportunity to attack any of these cities. And if there's not an opportunity to attack, you shouldn't attack. Okay, so more infantry shuffling. At this point, I'm realizing kind of the situation. The situation is that nothing's going to be happening for a while. So now I'm just like, maybe I can take a nice position up here, because my opponent retreated infantry. And generally when your opponent retreats infantry, it's kind of giving you information about my opponent thinks that they're weaker than me on this side. So if he thinks he's weaker than me on this side, then I want to bully him with infantry here. Additionally, this is kind of a pretty strong defensive line, because this is a high defense tile. And additionally, the infantry mechanics on the strong side, again, if we're trading infantry 1-for-1 on this side here, ultimately it favors me because I have the better infantry reinforced to this side. So for all these reasons, I feel like it's fine for me to kind of bully with this infantry positioning. I'm within range of him, like he could get a first volley off with his infantry if he wanted to, but the positioning is still very strong with all these high defense tiles and the formation here, and then stuff set up to counterattack. So I'm not too worried. And so we get this recon in here, and this is actually a really nice position. So on both sides of the map, like my positioning is better than my opponent's. But the sad thing about this map is that it doesn't actually matter. The only thing my good positioning is doing is it's giving me a little bit of information, and it's helping me to not make bad decisions. That's literally all that's happening. I have not attacked a single unit the entire game so far. It's day 15. Not one unit of mine has attacked my opponent yet. I got hit by the copter on my recon. And I think that's the only attack that's happened so far. So this map is dumb. And the reality is the play for my opponent is correct. Because my opponent is just defending the cities and knowing that if I attack in, it's bad for me. Like, I can't realistically take these cities. So he's just playing to counterattack, which is completely reasonable. I see an anti-air, I see a tank. This isn't like a ton of units, but frankly, I'm stronger on this side than I am on this side. So I am not set up to act like, if we engage in a fight, I'm not going to be able to win and take this city. I'm just not strong enough. It's really hard to take that city. So I've set up in the corner here, and I'm like, hey, attack my infantry from your city that I've got covered with artillery. And maybe I can, force him to come into my army on my side and have like a more favorable trade that way. But I'm not expecting anything. And you can see that I'm just kind of backing off because there's no way I'm ever going to get this city, right? So there's no reason for me to try and posture and put myself in danger. But again, like, we got this corner and we got control of this corner. So positionally, like, I'm doing better than my opponent, but the map is dumb, so it doesn't matter. Because I can't exploit this positioning to do anything. So as you can imagine, on day 15, I am relatively tilted because my units have not attacked a single opponent unit, and it's day 15. And this is Advanced Wars. This is not Advanced Stairs, although it has been this game. So this turn, I've cooked up something in my mind. So I want you to make a mental note of this. This is day 15. This is the day that I cook up a plan. And next turn, we'll see what the plan is. Oh, sorry, not this turn. It might be next turn that I cook up the plan. Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. So we'll put a bookmark in that. There's a plan coming soon. I think it's next turn when I start the plan. So we're just spamming out copters to get some more infantry. And he doesn't actually have vision of that city, so he kind of moves down and parks his infantry next to my infantry, which is kind of funny. So I'm gonna attack something next turn. Let's go. As he further retreats from this side, so this is kind of nice. And actually, let me see. Did I? Okay, I don't know if it was this turn. I'm gonna actually watch that one more time. I just want to double check something. Okay, I'm not sure. It must have been maybe one of the previous turns. Basically, I saw something important. I saw something move out of this forest. I think it was an infantry. I think it was maybe the previous turn, not the last turn. Or the 2 turns ago, basically, not the last turn. And so the fact that something moved out of this forest means that this forest tile is empty, which means there can't be a recon there. And so that's going to be relevant. And so I just wanted to call that out. So there was a point that I saw something move out of that tile. And so that as long as I maintain vision with this recon on this diagonal, I'm going to know if something ever goes into this tile. But until something does, I know it's empty. So we finally kill a unit. And then, okay, I know why I did that. So I moved this recon over to see if the anti-air went here or if it went here, to try and maybe get a read on whether my opponent had a lander or not. But they have not given me that information, so I can't really say one way or another. I'm trying to see if, like, is it realistic for me to actually continue pressuring this city, or should I kind of back off because my opponent is reacting to my pressure and probably has more units than I can attack into reasonably. So I'm just kind of seeing what's over here. But again, like, my opponent could have anything back here. Like, all I saw was a tank and an anti-air, and they've definitely got more than that. It's not really great to just blindly yeet your army into a question mark death ball. So again, I'm trying to get my infantry in position to have the opportunity to attack into this if it seems advantageous to me. But if it's not, then I'm just not going to do it. Okay, so this is the turn where the plan begins. So I want you to notice this. So I built a copter down here. I'm trying to spam copters down here because this is the fastest way for me to reinforce power to this side. The more power I have here, the more opportunity I have to actually follow through with this attack on the city. But again, I'm not obligated to attack. I'm just creating the possibility to attack. And then I create 3 infantry. And that's okay because I'm still maintaining my unit count, but I am banking a ton of money. And we'll see what I am banking it for next turn. It's a little spicy. What a riveting game. All right, so we got a recon in here now. So now I know, like, he's got really good vision of my army, and I can't really attack into this tile without risking losing whatever goes in there. So we'll see what I do with that next turn. You see a million infantry shifting over to defend this property in the bottom right because you can't actually attack anything on this map ever because this map is terrible. Thrilling. All right, so now we are kind of set up for a decent position. If I wanted to attack into this turn, or to attack into this wall, like, now is the turn. All my infantry are kind of in range to get like a first attack on this. So I need to decide whether I'm actually going to do it or not. And the way we do that is we have to sack a recon to just kind of see what's going on. Soon. Okay, so I just kind of do some recon moves. Doing some setup, but okay, so we're going in because we need to see what we're going to attack into. And based on this, we will decide, are we strong enough to actually fight into this? And I'm looking at that and I see the Neo tank, and the answer is, okay, we are not strong enough to take this tile, obviously. We're going to lose this recon, but that's okay, because if we had attacked in with our entire army, we would have lost a lot more than that recon. And actually at 52 units and 200k, losing the recon is not actually the end of the world. We'll just finish off that infantry for fun, but we're going to get out of here. We can no longer push into this corner. The Neo tank is stronger than anything we've got. And yeah, we're just going to run away. It's boring, but there's no need to attack into a fight that you're not going to win, so just don't. What? All right. So here's the plan. All right. I've really set this up. So I kind of realized that attacking in this side, attacking in this side might be difficult. And now we know that attacking in this side is going to be really difficult. So I have a different plan. I'm trying to do the only thing that I can think of to break this deadlock in case we literally sit here for another 18 turns, which I think my opponent would be pretty justified in doing. And frankly, I would be justified in doing too. And that is, I'm going to get a missile onto this tile. because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I can missile lock this airport. And so I did some positioning here. So I've got this lander on this tile so that he can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the first turn I unload the missiles. And then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it's 3 turns. So like it's going to take forever for this to work. But if I can stall and continue to stall long enough, I know my opponent has nothing in these woods here. So there's no recon. And even if there's a recon on this city, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 does not see into the forest. So as long as this positioning stays exactly like it is, I'm going to be able to sneak missiles into this forest. And I need the Neotank as well. The Neotank is the second part of my plan. So the idea here is the missiles gets unloaded first, and then the next turn I can unload the Neotank at the beginning of the turn and then just move the lander back. I lose a turn of movement on the Neotank, but it's fine because we're not going to be fighting anyway because we're just staring at each other. So the idea here is I get the missiles in here, and then I move my Neotank onto the city. Oh man, I can't believe I gave that information away for free. And the idea is that I want him to build a bomber to counter the Neotank the same turn that I move the missiles into the forest. And then I can potentially get a bomber kill for free with the missiles. And then also I lock this city. And then maybe I can do a surprise attack on the weak side. Because all my tech units are they're over here. They're not. I've got a bunch of like copters and stuff, but there's there's nothing to counter the Neotank. So I'm thinking about, okay, like maybe I can get a surprise attack here, lock the airport, and if you can lock this airport, then maybe you can actually attack this side, because the main defense on this side is this airport just spamming out copters and wearing you down. But if you missile lock it, then that's not an option anymore, and the reinforcements are more evenly in your favor, even though they're not great. But it's the only thing I could think of basically to prevent this game from turning into a stalemate. So remember that I came up with that entire plan last turn. Day 16 is when I came up with that plan, because I needed to save the money to be able to afford all of those units without base skipping. Okay, that's day 16. So let's just remember day 16 is when I came up with the plan. So now my objective is to keep my opponent from doing anything for the next like 4 turns that it's going to take me to get these stinking missiles in position. That is my only objective. I can no longer attack down here. I'm not strong enough. Got the Neotank down here. Like nothing's going to happen. So I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm going to abandon that corner. I'm just going to shift everything back. Like whatever you want to attack into me. Good luck. I'm pretty well defended actually from an attack. We've got 2 artillery and the potential to have a lot of air units spammed out. So not really worried about losing this comm tower. So we're just shuffling some more infantry up. And again, so we unload the missiles here. Missiles have to go first because they are slow, and so we want an extra move with the missiles. The Neotank is there for the bait, and the Neotank will show up the same turn I get the missiles into the woods. And so we're just setting up our position on this side because we know our opponent's got more stuff. After all, we just did this big investment in like a Neotank and missiles on the other side. We've got a medium tank on this side, so we really just don't want to fight over here. So I'm just positioning in a way that makes it really uncomfortable to attack in the hopes that we don't fight. Get a bomber as well, just in case we do fight. The bomber can take out a Neotank and is just going to sit there and see if the Neotank shows up. This turn, very little happens. Having a recon in this square is actually really nice. because you cover this side here. So again, we're seeing any sort of front shifts. That's really good like map vision to have. And what we see is that our opponent is potentially shifting to this side. I don't want that. I don't want my opponent to have a lot of stuff here because that's where I'm going to attack. I would like my opponent to have as little stuff here as possible, and then I'm going to ambush. So I see everything shifting this way with my excellent vision and my good map positioning. So what should a man do? Well, naturally, I'm going to threaten this corner again. If you're pushing all your stuff this way, I'm going to be like, no. If you move everything there, I'm going to threaten this city again with all my stuff, all my tech units that are back here. Yes, many tech units. So many. I've got like 4 Neo-tanks ready to attack this city. So you better bring your stuff back down here or I'm going to take your city. And I know my opponent can see all of this movement because they've got the recon in these woods here. So they see all this. But that's okay. And now I'm actually shifting stuff up here because this is where the fight is actually going to happen. Like I'm actually going to attack up here. So I'm very careful with how I'm moving these guys so that they don't go in vision of what I assume is probably a recon here. So that they kind of front shifted the back way. So I'm kind of secretly front shifting stuff to this side. And I'm moving junk units into this corner. And even if I get just like totally wrecked down here, the worst I can lose is a couple of infantry. So it's low risk, low reward, but I want to try and force him to respect the threat to the corner, even though this is extremely half-hearted. And I'm shifting infantry around, but importantly, this is all out of vision. I know where the recons are, so it's here. So all this is all the shuffling is happening beyond where he can see, and I'm just not touching anything in this corner. I'm like, don't even worry about this corner. Nothing's happening up here, so you don't need to move anything either. Because what I really don't want to happen is I don't want him to move a recon into this forest tile, because then he can see this tile, and then the missiles are no longer a surprise. So just all I need is 2 more turns of you doing nothing in that corner, and the trap will be ready. And so this turn is beautiful. I see everything that's happening, and we see all the units. Maybe not all of them, but we saw him respect my threat, right? So he pulled the recon out of here, and he's like, okay, I guess you're gonna attack this corner. I gotta respect the threat here and bring some vehicles back here, and that's great. That's all I want. I'm not actually gonna attack that corner. I'm just posturing. And we're sitting with a ton of anti-air over here. If you are going to attack on this side, you need 4 anti-air over here, because you need to deal with a ton of copter spam. Like, that's what's going to happen as soon as you fight, is copters are going to be showing up out of these airports every single turn. So you need a lot of anti-air. Otherwise, your push is just going to die out. Okay, so as long as nothing happens now, we're in pretty good shape. We only need nothing to happen for 1 more turn, and then we can actually do stuff. And so I love what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing stuff move into this corner, being like, you better not attack me in this corner. And I'm like, yeah, I better not attack you in this corner, and I'm not going to either. And see all the infantry shift down here, and it's like, oh yeah, amazing. Amazing. To get this movement down to this corner got me exactly what I wanted. Look at all this shifting. Like, it's Okay, he's expecting the attack here, but it's not going to be there because now we're ready. And actually, the missiles have as much vision as a recon. So I see the airport. I see that there's a recon here, but the recon doesn't have enough vision to see the missiles. So I've successfully snuck in there. And actually, I'm just going to YOLO in here. I want to, now the trap's ready. So now it's time to move in. He finished moving everything down here. So now it's time to get aggressive up here. We're going to cut off his vision. We see a little bit of what we're in for here. And now we're just going to throw our infantry in. We don't need to attack him, but we're going to bully him because we should have more infantry than him on this side. This is our black boat side for infantry reinforce. So he needs to respect the fact that if we trade infantry on this side, it's going to favor me. He's going to run out of infantry first. Assuming the fight is, relatively equal. And also, so I kind of misplayed a little bit. I meant to move this Neo-Tank to this city before I killed this recon to make it look like more of a mistake. I wanted to make it look like I accidentally moved the Neo-Tank into vision, and then I was like, oops, I better kill this recon. I kind of screwed it up. But anyway, so I had to change how I laid this out. So I've deliberately left this Neo-Tank in range of the recon here. So he definitely sees the Neo-Tank, and I'm really hoping, please build a bomber, please build a bomber, please build a bomber. And again, I'm shifting the bomber. I want the option to maybe send it up here. And so putting it near the middle of the map kind of gives me the option to potentially shift it up there, but also is still covering the comm tower, which is, I'm kind of expecting, okay, my opponent sees me shoving everything here, and my opponent's likely to just kind of shove everything in here in response. So having the bomber here protects me against a potential shove on this side, and also will still give me the opportunity to potentially move it to the other side if I want. And now that our actual attack has been revealed, we have no reason to pretend like we're going to attack in this corner anymore. Haha, that was never going to happen. So now we just get out of there. We have no reason to be there anymore. It's time to retreat. And now my opponent is just going to copy what I did. Not too surprising. I see a rocket, so that's a really nice thing to see. Seeing the rockets before it actually attacks anything is great. And rockets are, honestly, rockets are not great attack units. They're kind of good for defense, but if you ever lose your momentum on your attack, then they're just fodder. And I know it's here, so I don't really need to leave anything in range of it. It's a lot of money invested into something that's probably not going to get its value back. So the tank gets hit by an infantry in here, or sorry, an artillery in here. That's not surprising. This is the most logical place to always have an artillery, so definitely was expecting that. And now it looks like maybe something will actually happen in this game. And unfortunately, there's no bomber. It's just a helicopter. But, I mean, we invested 12K in the missiles, and we're going to get a free kill on a 9K copter, so it's not the worst. And additionally, it's preventing reinforcements from the closest deploy tile to our attack. So it's going to get us something, but it wasn't the glorious bomber snipe that we had envisioned. But I mean, it was a great idea, right? It was a super cool idea. I've never even built a missile seriously, I think, in a match before. So we're actually going to get a kill with the missiles. Bop. Unfortunately, as if this map couldn't get any dumber, Now we have to worry about the CO powers. We've done enough trading. If I attack into this army with all my stuff, my opponent is 100% going to get the first Winter Fury. And in all likelihood, the person who gets the first Winter Fury is going to win the match. And the reason for that is because I'm at 66 units right now. Unit limit is 70 units. There's going to be a fight soon, and we're all going to trade the units that we built up the entire game into each other. The act of trading 70 units into each other is not something that's going to be finished after one turn. Okay, this is going to be probably 2 or 3 turns of just a massive brawl. What that means is that whoever gets Winter Fury first is going to give the opponent their Winter Fury the next turn. And then the turn after that, the first person's Winter Fury is going to end. And when that ends, they are going to have the ability to get charge again because their superpower has ended. And their opponent's still going to have the superpower active. And so any charge that they would have gotten that turn is not going to be there. So if there's a massive turn that's going to last, or so there's a massive fight that's going to last 2 or 3 turns, then having the first chance to get power again, to get meter built up again, is incredibly important because that turn's worth of meter is going to be incredibly large. And that power gain is going to almost certainly mean that whoever gets the first Winter Fury is going to get the second Winter Fury. And the second Winter Fury can potentially come really fast. And if a lot of charge is built up in that 1 turn window, potentially that, there could be even a gap between the first person getting the second superpower and the second person getting the superpower. So that's where the game could really be decided. So anyway, Olaf mirrors are kind of dumb also, as if this map wasn't dumb enough. Olaf mirror on this map, also very dumb. Getting the first superpower in this situation is literally more important than trading efficiently this turn. The only thing I want is for my opponent to not get Winter Fury next turn. So my entire turn is set up around not giving my opponent an opportunity to get Winter Fury. What that means is that I need to be very, very careful about where I position my anti-airs. I cannot allow my opponent to have an opportunity to sacrifice their copters into my anti-air to get a bunch of charge to get the first Winter Fury. Additionally, I want to limit the number of stuff that I kill so that my opponent can't get close enough where they could send all their stuff into my death ball and do enough damage to their units and my units to build up the rest of the meter. So as tempting as it is for me to attack into these armies that are completely within range of me, it is actually more important that I stare at my opponent. As if this map couldn't get more silly. So I'm going to take out a recon here. And I don't get the roll there, so I have to burn a second infantry. But notice I'm not committing any more valuable units than that. I'm just sending an infantry. We're going to cap the city, knowing that obviously it's not going to actually succeed, but we're just going to force our opponent to do something to us. And we're going to send our infantry in to weaken his infantry as sacrifices. We are going to send this copter in as total suicide, just to kill an infantry. And we're going to take a pot shot on another infantry from the high defense tile. Why not? And our goal here, as we see really great information from this recon. So, we can see, okay, they've got a medium tank back there. We're not even going to try and break through to kill the artillery that we know is on this tile. We are just going to set up in position to stare at our opponent from a slightly closer position. It's the hug of death. Okay, now we know that we need this bomber down here, so we're not going to worry about sending the bomber up. Additionally, having the bomber back here is safer in case my opponent has somehow like a fighter and then a recon here, and if he were like to see my bomber somehow and then pick it off with the fighter, then that could give him a lot of charge. So I'm bringing this bomber down. Just there's no way the bomber's dying here. And the only way that I'm going to win or lose this game is by getting Winter Fury first. So literally the only thing I'm thinking about is how can I get Winter Fury first. In my plan, I have giant wall of infantry. I'm preventing my opponent from having any way to attack anything that is valuable that could provide a lot of charge. So just infantry only. If you want to fight into my infantry, fine. You can attack into my infantry. And here, same thing. Attack into my infantry, except for this copter. Please kill this copter and give me 9,000 charge. If he kills the copter, I'm 33k away. I'm pretty confident that I will be close enough to do a big yeet into his army and be able to build enough charge for super, as long as I lose this copter. But it's pretty scary. I mean, having the armies this close to each other and just not attacking feels very uncomfortable. He sacks an infantry there. It's kind of nice. Anytime your opponent sacks an infantry into you, it doesn't feel terrible. So obviously my infantry that I sent in are dying, horrible deaths. Thank you for your service. The Neo tank comes in. This is a really wild play because now this Neo tank is within range of the bomber. It does open up the opportunity for him to get more infantry kills. So he is getting like a decent amount of infantry kills down here. But look at the charge. I'm at 48k out of 63, so I need 15k more charge. Yeah, so my infantry got mauled pretty hard. If we look at the stats, I mean, I've lost 15 units and I've killed 7, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to get superpower this turn. Exactly what I wanted to do, exactly what I was trying to do. It worked perfectly, and additionally, my opponent made it really, really easy for me because this bomber is right next to the Neo tank, and so I can get a ton of charge for that. This is the one thing you cannot do in an Olaf mirror. You really want to get the first superpower, but if for some reason you can't get the first superpower, the one thing you must not do is allow your opponent to get the superpower at the beginning of their turn. If you're going to give your opponent the first superpower, they must use like their entire turn to attack to build the rest of the meter that they need to get, so that they can get like the Winter Fury with like the last part of their turn, so that they can't benefit from the additional stats. If you give your opponent the first superpower and the opportunity to attack into your weakened army with everything, the fight is going to be an absolute massacre, and by the time you get your superpower off the next turn, the damage is going to be done already. And so this is what my opponent has done here. You know, I lost a lot of infantry, but just watch what happens here. This is absolute carnage. So I'm just doing what I can to build some charge. I actually kind of botched this. I didn't want to attack with this infantry because I wanted the Neo tank to come in and hit this artillery, and now I can't do it because it's blocked. So I kind of screwed that up already, but oops. The biggest issue when you're fighting deathball to deathball like this is actually surface area, because most units take 2 attacks to kill. And so every unit that's taking 2 attacks to kill ultimately means like eventually your opponent is going to run out of space to fight into your dudes, even though they might have units left that could still attack. So, but for every unit that can one-shot a unit, that creates a path to continue one-shotting units. And so what's going to happen here is with the Winter Fury, all the infantry down here are going to turn into 8 HP infantry. And what that means is every single vehicle that I have is going to be able to do 8 HP worth of damage to an infantry if they want. And so all these infantry are going to be one-shots. So this wall of infantry is not going to be that powerful because I'm just going to be one-shotting unit, one-shotting a unit, one-shotting a unit all the way through. All this stuff's going to be one-shots. And it's going to be really efficient for me, even though I lost a ton of infantry already. So here comes the Winter Fury. And this is a guaranteed kill on the Neotank with the infantry. It's kind of funny because the Winter Fury brought the Neotank down to 1 HP. And the infantry does a minimum of 1 HP. So it's not often you see the infantry kill a Neotank, but there you go. Kill the anti-air. Killing the anti-air is really, really valuable because as soon as this side has no more anti-air, copter reinforced from this airport will prevent any further pushes. It's just, you can't push anymore. So one shot. One shot. All right, not a one shot there, but this unit is not next to anything, so it's okay. I'm not losing surface area here. And again here, we're not creating too many problems for ourselves. So it's a one shot. That's a one shot. That's a one shot. That's a one shot. And that's a one shot. Okay, and we get some damage there. So already just look at the, we've already killed now 23 to 15. So even though we took a ton of damage, we just resolved this side and we're already up 8 kills. It's crazy. One shot. Look at that bomber. All right, so that's great intel. Recons, they're good units. Use them. Infantry rating, obviously very good here. We just want to attack with as much stuff as we can. Killing as many units as possible. Another one shot. We're going to cap that comm tower, even though obviously there's no way we're ever getting that comm tower because we're going to get Winter Fury next turn. And we're just setting up now with an infantry wall. Because our goal now is we can't really easily push much deeper into this. And it's pretty well defended, right? Like there's a bomber, there's rockets, there's an artillery here. There's a bunch of junk that's in the way. So I don't really want to commit with my really strong units yet. I want to just build an infantry wall and have his really strong units kill this infantry wall. And once they do that, then they will be exposed and my tech units can basically just attack into the vehicles that are left because I'm clearing out his infantry, he's got to clear out my infantry, and then my vehicles will clear out his vehicles the following turn. So yeah, we could have sent the medium tank into the artillery there, and we don't. And we send the copter in here to finish off that tank. Might have been wiser to send it into the artillery instead, but we did what we did. And actually, I kind of messed this up. I realized this after. I could have sent this anti-air into this infantry, and then I could have sent the copter over to kill this copter. So I kind of messed that up a little bit, but it's hard to execute these complicated fight turns perfectly. And the details almost don't even matter because I got the first superpower, and that's really the decisive thing in this game. So counter Winter Fury, lose the bomber. I might have been better off playing this a little differently, where I could have probably sent a tank into this anti-air instead of trading the copter into the copter here. And if I had done that, I might have actually saved the bomber. But at the same time, this artillery on the city is covering this tile, so it's not horrible. I'll lose the bomber, but I'm going to kill the anti-air really, really easily. So we're getting our infantry massacred pretty hard. Bomber is here, but this is super exposed. And again, I've got tons of anti-air in position. That's what you need to attack on this side. You need lots of anti-air, and we set up correctly. So yeah, pretty bloody fight. Let's take a look at the stats. So we kind of equalized in kills and deaths, but this is the turn that I was talking about that is so important. This bar can go up, and this bar cannot. And now a lot of stuff's going to die. Surprise mega tank. We do not care. Mega tank will not accomplish anything. There are no ground tech units on this front anyway, and we already know we can't lose because these two copters didn't get attacked. And these two copters not getting attacked means there's no more anti-air, and this is probably the last anti-air, and the copters are just going to overwhelm everything. We've got 4. So I set up to pop the rockets. We don't actually need to kill the rockets. Killing anything actually is not super important because after this turn is over, we're going to be pretty close to another Winter Fury. And a 3 HP unit gets Winter Fury and it's a 1 HP unit. So it might as well be dead. And the T-Copter blocks access to the anti-air. So look at this wall of air units that we've got here. There's no anti-air here. What can you do? You can't attack here anymore. You don't have enough anti-air. There's no further ground that you can cover. It doesn't matter how many tanks you have. You can't fight into a wall of copters. And now this is where the blood is going to be spilt as the anti-airs come in and just annihilate the entire air army. We go in here. Medium tank almost dies. I think that was a roll that we lost, but doesn't really matter. Just doing my best to use the infantry as efficiently as possible. And we get to pop the artillery. Yeah, the artillery can get a shot on our neo-tank, but doesn't really matter that much. Infantry finishes off the medium tank there. That's kind of fun. You don't see that every day. And that's the turn. Look at the charge. Look at that. I'm basically 2/3 of the way to my second Winter Fury just because I got the first Winter Fury. So again, if you were doubting how important it is to get that first Winter Fury in this matchup, this game is completely over now. And it's purely like, even if he shows up with 3 anti-air down here next turn, it doesn't matter because I'm going to get the Winter Fury. And then this entire side is going to get wiped out. It's going to be absolute bloodbath. Okay, and that's the resign. So made it through to round 4. This was a miserable game to play. It's so frustrating because like I felt like I outplayed so hard on so many levels, like just with the positioning, and like I had control over well over half the map for almost the entire game. I kind of manipulated my opponent to do exactly what I wanted to do the whole time, and ultimately just came down to like who got the first Winter Fury. I will say that we can kind of lift the fog now. Let me turn everything back on here. All the anti-air here. I will say that something that hurt my opponent substantially was the quality of the army comp. Two rockets. Really, I mean, that's a lot of money invested, and they really did not accomplish anything. If those 2 rockets are instead, 3 anti-air and an artillery, this game could potentially look different. Or at least it wouldn't have been as lopsided when the fighting finally happened. Additionally, the mega tank is expensive and slow. I guess it's good with the lander, but you want the mega tank to counterattack against neo tanks, and all the mega tank had to fight into was copters, because I didn't have any tech units on that side. So ultimately, I think I played really well, but it's just frustrating because there was never any opportunity to attack before we hit unit limit. And let's just go through the game with full vision now. We'll do that quickly because there's not a lot to see. It's going to be the staring for the majority of it. So this is kind of the end of the cap phase. And you can kind of see there's just a giant wall of infantry. And I'm pulling him. So like there's really just not a lot of stuff here. But there's no way for me to know that because I successfully pulled everything down to this side. He's got this bomber that I never really knew about. So that bomber was made really early. And so so everything is down here, and I'm pretty reasonably stronger than him on this side, but I'm not strong enough to push in here. And so there was definitely never an opportunity to attack in here. And so my recon again did his job, saw that I was outmatched here, and so I just don't attack. So I don't make the mistake, and we back off properly. And now again, he's trying to shift back up here. I don't want that because I'm setting the trap. So we force him to pull everything back down here again. And we basically kind of forced all the tech units down to this side, which is where we wanted them to be, because we were always going to be attacking up here. And we knew it the entire time. And that's the first power. And the end. So anyway, that's been it for this replay. I hope you enjoyed this game somehow, even though it was kind of a stinker. But sometimes that's what you get. Round 4 is going to be against a player named Eckhart. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but he's a really, really good player. Frankly, I would put him in my top 5 currently of Fog players. So I feel really unlucky to run into this quality of player this early in the tournament. And it's on Settles as Stillwater, which is a map that I have had absolutely zero success on historically. So I think round 4 is really going to be tough for me, and I wouldn't be shocked if I lost. But win or lose, we'll do a replay review on that next time. And should be a good one. I think it's going to be the best match of the tournament so far. Certainly the caliber of opponent is really, really good. So Look forward to that. But until then, I hope you have a lovely evening wherever you are, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.